Hi, Carter. It's time for chapter 6 called Red Eye and Smoke. They had heard Pickett. The wolves closed in on them. Heather hissed, "Follow me to Pickett," and dove deep into the thicket. The wolves crashed in after them. She turned to Pickett and said with all the authority and confidence she could muster, "Third mound, don't look back." She slapped his back, urging him on as she slowed. Pickett bolted, changing direction swiftly like a leaf in a sudden strong breeze. He zigzagged through the maze of thorns and brush and disappeared. Heather turned to face the wolves, who were having a harder time of it in the dense thicket. A thicket would be kind of like the woods behind our house. She only saw 2 wolves. The other 3 must be trying to head us off, she thought. She let go of the idea that she could do any more for Pickett than she was doing now. The longer these 2 were delayed, the better chance he stood of making it out safely. She stopped in a hollow of the thicket. The wolves crashed in, brutal, hulking creatures breathing hard. The 2 wolves slowed as they neared. They looked surprised to see her standing still. Heather smiled. Perhaps they didn't realize there'd been 2 rabbits. "Go on, Pickett." "She's smiling, soldier," the wolf in the back said, his voice like grated gravel. He appeared to be the leader. Plainly older and calmer, he carried himself with a cruel dignity. As he slowly crept closer, making no sudden movements, Heather saw a long, dark scar across the left side of his face. It went right through where his left eye should have been. His right eye was bright red. He laughed a sneering laugh. "She is perhaps honored to be eaten by us?" His smile, hideous and hateful, vanished. "Give her the terms," he growled. Heather could see he had measured her and dismissed the possibility of a struggle. He looked out of the clearing back toward the meadow, his mind clearly moving to other concerns. "Yes, Captain," the nearer wolf said. "Hello, food," he said to Heather, his voice higher, filled with excitement. His eyes were wide and wild. "Come with us, easy-like, and you'll live. For now. Struggle, and we are allowed to kill you." "Please do struggle," the second wolf said, moving slowly to surround Heather. His calm manner, compared to the frenzied eagerness of the younger wolf, was even more frightening. He was wicked and cold, and she saw he had done this kind of thing many times. Heather decided to try to imitate his calm. "You believe you have me, but you don't." "Not yet," she said, trying to keep her voice even and low. "I know this thicket. I can disappear before you even know which way to look." The awful captain laughed, but she now had his attention. "Maybe this is a mistake. I should have let them underestimate me." "So it talks," the red-eyed captain sneered. "That's precious." "Well, I talk, yes," she said, "and I'll not go quietly. I'll bite back before I'm finished." Now both of the wolves laughed and exchanged looks, blinking in amusement. "Well, Captain," the younger wolf said amid high-pitched laughter, "at least we've had some entertainment." They moved to widen their distance apart, and now the 2 of them formed 2 parts of a triangle, with her as the 3rd point. She looked from side to side. These were no fools. She was cornered. "Your pride is your weakness," she said. The younger wolf let out a howl of fury. "Let me finish her, Captain," he begged. "She shames us." "Only if we let her," the captain said, motioning for the other to remain calm. "I'm intrigued by you, little rabbit doe. There seems to be quite a bit of fight in the rabbits of these parts." Heather felt a jolt of fear. What had they done to her family? The older wolf went on. "It's odd that traitors and deserters would be the least bit bold." "We're not deserters or traitors," Heather said quickly, her voice cracking. "Then, what are you doing so far from home?" he jeered, "and in such questionable company?" "This is home," she said, not knowing what he meant by questionable company. "They have given you lies for every meal, child. You have swallowed them and kept asking for more," he said, his voice crackling like thorns on fire. He smiled. He savored this as much as the attack. "Your father is a coward and a liar and a traitor," he said, finishing in a proud, toothy snarl. She looked down for a moment, sad resignation on her face. The wolves looked at each other, their faces red of satisfaction at breaking her. But just as they looked from her to each other, Heather acted. She pretended to be deeply wounded by the captain's words and crouched down, showing that she was beaten. Then she erupted between them in a flash. The two wolves, seeing their mistake, recovered quickly and lunged for her. She narrowly avoided their snapping jaws and felt the stirred air of their missing strikes, their hot breath. They collided as she dashed between them. She had only bought a few moments, but planned to make the most of them. She had rested as they talked and had planned her next moves. Now she went to work. Behind her, she heard another piercing howl, high, terrible, and fierce. She recognized that this was from the younger wolf. The howl was followed hard by a cursing, guttural roar of orders. Her fur stood up at the sounds, but she ran on. She darted back and forth through the thicket, emerging far from where she had entered. She left the thicket and ran across a small opening for the cover of nearby trees. She heard a loud, barking command. She couldn't make out what it was, but soon saw its effects as she peeked out from behind an oak tree. The sky, already acrid, with twisting plumes of smoke, filled with flaming arrows, which plunged into the thicket she had only just escaped. The thicket burst into flames, and even more smoke filled the air. Good. Let them think I've gotten burnt. She prepared to flee, eyeing the great wall of gray smoke passing before her. She waited for it to thicken a bit more as the fire kindled to a blaze. She stared into the smoke. Then, through the wall of gray, a gust of wind opened a slim, wispy window. She saw across the clearing a single red eye, and it saw her. They stared at each other for a moment. Heather was still. In this moment, she felt that all the meaning of her life was to escape and so frustrate this wicked one-eyed wolf. She could have run right then, he could have called his wolves, but neither moved, neither blinked. Then the smoke thickened, closing the window in gray, and the moment was gone. Heather looked quickly from side to side, then darted along the smoke wall toward Evergreen Row. She moved by instinct and memory. She couldn't see much at all. She knew if she ran as fast as she could, she would be in the row of evergreens in a moment. The great walls of smoke surrounded her like an ever-shifting house, changing shapes all the time. She inhaled a gulp of smoke, unable to avoid it. She slowed, coughing and spluttering. But I can't stop now. Heather winced and wavered, the gray, thick air closing in on her. She ran on, still trusting her way, but doubt crept in. The scene was so confusing, and she was tiring again. The smoke burnt her lungs. Maybe she was running the wrong way. When she coughed, had she turned? Where was she headed? Any wrong move could mean the end. She needed to be perfect. Minutes went by. How many she couldn't tell. She could hardly breathe. The blanket of smoke was covering her, and there was nowhere to turn. She ran on, but was running out of air. Her eyes stung. I won't make it. Coughing, she looked up and saw a break in the smoke above, revealing a clean blast of sunlight before a brilliant blue sky. She smiled. For the briefest moment, it occurred to her that this would make a happy last sight. But the air began to clear in a sudden strong breeze. She saw the tops of evergreens in the near distance, the ever-widening circle of blue brightness as the heavy clouds of smoke retreated. She knew where she was. The ground was still heavy with smoke, though it was clearing. Her eyes stung. The smoke began to blind her. Tears came, filling her eyes, and she saw more clearly. The smoke on the ground was twisting in the wind and being carried off like sheets jerked from a clothesline. She saw the tops of the trees, knew she had made it near Evergreen Row. She smiled, throwing herself into the last yards, gathered all her energy for her greatest possible speed, then looked straight ahead. The last of the ground smoke cleared to reveal 10 waiting wolves at the bottom of the first pine of Evergreen Row. That is the end of the chapter. And the next one is called Fateful Decisions, and I will read that tomorrow. In the meantime, we don't know where Pickett is, do we? Hope you liked my chapter, Carter. I love you very much. I'll see you soon.